Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today. We're looking at a piece of technology that has, I guess you could say, effectively vanished.
It really has. It's sort of hidden itself in plain sight.
Exactly. It's moved from being this, clunky, demanding gadget on your wrist to just a piece of jewelry that sits quietly on your finger.
It's true. I mean, we're sitting here in 2026, and the whole idea of strapping a computer to your wrist to track your health is, well, it's not over, but it's definitely starting to look a bit dated.
It feels like the wrist is officially out and the finger is in. This used to be such a niche market, for early adopters and biohackers.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem.
It is a massive shift. And what we found in the research for this deep dive is that this isn't just a fashion choice. It's not just about aesthetics.
Right.
Moving that sensor 3 inches down your arm fundamentally changes the quality of the data you're getting.
And that is our mission today. We've pulled together all the specs, the user reviews, and the clinical data to do two things. First, we're going to look at the landscape of 2026. Who are the heavy hitters?
Right.
We've got Oura, RingConn, Samsung, Ultrahuman. We need to figure out which one actually deserves that real estate on your hand.
Because they are not all created equal.
Not by a long shot.
Definitely not. But then, and this is the part I think is really going to resonate with a lot of you listening, we're going to take that hardware and use it to decode something called the Midlife Energy Reset. Because if you're over 45, these rings aren't just step counters anymore. They're acting like private detectives for your nervous system.
That is the perfect analogy. Private detectives. They're uncovering why we feel so exhausted even when we think we're resting.
Yeah.
The data is revealing this huge discrepancy between what we think we're doing and what our biology is actually experiencing. So let's start with the hardware. Why the big migration to the finger? I mean, I've worn smartwatches for years. I'm used to them. What gives the ring the physiological edge?
Well, it all comes down to the signal-to-noise ratio.
Okay.
Think about your wrist. It's a busy intersection. You have heavy bone structure, you've got thick muscle, you have tendons that are constantly sliding back and forth every time you type or, pick up a coffee cup.
So it's just noisy data.
Extremely noisy.
Yeah.
The sensor has to work overtime to filter out all that movement just to find your heartbeat. But the finger is different.
How so?
It's packed with digital arteries, 2 major ones running right along the sides, and they're very, very close to the surface.
Less interference.
Much less. And this allows these devices to use their PPG sensors, that's photoplethysmography, much more effectively. They operate on a principle called the Beer-Lambert law.
Which sounds like a rule you'd find in a pub, but I know it's physics.
It is physics, yeah. It's all about light absorption. The ring shines a light into your tissue, and based on how much light bounces back versus how much is absorbed, it can calculate the volume of blood pulsing through the artery.
Okay.
Because there's less bone and muscle noise on the finger, that signal is incredibly clean. That clarity is what allows for the high-level metrics we're seeing now, like accurate heart rate variability, blood oxygen, and very precise sleep staging.
And I guess that precision leads to the other big selling point, which is the whole invisible tech idea. There's something psychologically different about wearing a ring versus a watch.
Passive tracking.
It is.
Well,
With
yeah.
the watch, I find I'm constantly looking at it. Did I close my rings? What's that notification? Who's texting me now?
Right.
With the ring, I put it on and I forget it's there. It feels like I'm getting a more honest picture of my health because I'm not changing my behavior just because I'm staring at a screen.
That's a key observation. The Hawthorne effect, where you change your behavior because you know you're being observed, is minimized. You aren't performing for the device.
You're just living.
You're just living, and it's documenting.
Okay, so the form factor wins. Now let's talk about the players. In 2026, the market has really matured. We've got 4 real contenders. If we look at the landscape, the name that still dominates the conversation is Oura. They just released the Oura Ring 4. Are they still the reigning champion?
I think it's fair to say they are the gold standard, at least for a certain type of user. Oura basically established the category, and the Gen 4 is a really significant refinement. The big leap forward is something they're calling smart sensing.
I saw that in the specs. Is that just, marketing speak, or does it actually solve a real problem?
It solves a very real problem. Historically, smart rings had a kind of fatal flaw. If the ring rotated on your finger, say, while you were tossing and turning in bed, the sensors could drift away from those arteries we just talked about.
And you'd wake up with gaps in your data, dead zones.
Exactly. Which renders the whole night of tracking useless. So smart sensing uses an algorithm that essentially maps the signal path. It adapts to your specific finger structure and your skin tone to find the optimal signal no matter how the ring is sitting. It virtually hunts for the artery.
That is clever. And I noticed they finally addressed the comfort issue, too.
Yes. The Gen 4 has fully recessed sensors. If you remember the older models, they had these little epoxy bumps on the inside that could kind of dig into your finger.
Like little teeth?
A little bit, yeah. Now, the interior is titanium and is completely smooth. They've also expanded the sizing range from size 4 all the way up to 15, so it accommodates almost any hand size.
It sounds like the perfect device until you get to the checkout.
Yeah.
And then you get to the ongoing cost. We have to talk about this subscription.
The elephant in the room.
You pay anywhere from $300 to $500 for the hardware, and then you're still on the hook for what, $5.99 a month just to see your own data? That feels aggressive.
It's the biggest friction point for consumers, no question. And Oura has doubled down on this model. Without that membership, the Ring 4 is severely restricted. You get 3 basic scores for the day: sleep, readiness, activity, but no deep historical trends, no temperature analysis, no advanced sleep staging.
So you're essentially renting your own health insights.
That's a good way to put it, yes.
Which, of course, opens the door wide for the challenger. This is the brand that seems to be capitalizing on everyone who is allergic to subscriptions. RingConn. Specifically, the RingConn Gen 2.
RingConn has been the disruptor of the year. They looked at Aura's model and decided to attack on 2 fronts: value and battery life.
Okay, let's talk about that battery. Because in the wearable world, charging is the Achilles heel. If I have to charge it every 2 days, eventually I'm just going to leave it on the nightstand.
Precisely. But the RingConn Gen 2 is effectively the battery king of 2026.
Right.
In independent testing, this device is consistently hitting 10 to 12 days on a single charge.
That's double what most competitors do.
Easily double. R and Samsung are usually in that 5 to 7 day range. With RingConn, you could go on a 10-day vacation, leave the charger at home, and capture data for the entire trip.
That is a significant quality of life feature. And the design is different, too. It's not a perfect circle.
No, it's a squircle.
A squircle?
A soft, rounded, square shape. It sounds a bit odd, but users report it's incredibly comfortable because that shape sits more naturally between the fingers.
Right. Your fingers aren't perfect circles.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's incredibly light, only about 2 to 3 grams. You barely feel it.
And just to confirm, no monthly fee.
0. All the data is unlocked from day 1. And they've introduced a major new feature: sleep apnea monitoring. They're claiming about 90.7% accuracy in detecting breathing interruptions.
Is that FDA cleared?
Not yet. We have to be very careful there. It is not a medical device, but is a consumer screening tool. Just to have that flagged, that is a massive value add for a device with no subscription.
So, Oura is the polished premium experience if you're willing to pay the rent. RingConn is the battery workhorse with no fee. But then we have the tech giant stepping in. Samsung has entered the chat with the Galaxy Ring.
The Galaxy Ring is fascinating because it is purely an ecosystem play. If you live in the Samsung world, you have the phone, maybe the watch. This is probably the default choice for you. It integrates everything directly into Samsung Health.
What stands out about the physical design? I've heard it's quite distinct.
It is. It's concave. The surface actually curves inward slightly.
Oh, so it's like a little valley.
Exactly. And that's a brilliant functional choice. Think about grabbing a door handle or lifting a dumbbell. The metal rim, the high point takes the hit, protecting the sensor area and the finish in the center. It prevents that scratched-up look that rings get over time.
That is smart.
It also features an AI-based energy score and gesture controls. You can, for example, dismiss an alarm on your Samsung phone just by pinching your fingers together while wearing the ring.
That's very futuristic, like Minority Report style. But
yeah.
If I have an iPhone,
You're out of luck. Strictly Android and really strictly Samsung if you want the full feature set. It's a walled garden.
got it. Okay, one more niche player that's making waves. The Ultrahuman Ring Air. This one is usually framed as the biohacker's choice. Why is that?
Ultrahuman has taken a different angle. They focus very heavily on metabolic health. So it's less about how did you sleep and more about how does your sleep affect your metabolism and vice versa.
Give me an example of a feature that does that.
They have something called the stimulant window. It analyzes your circadian rhythm and tells you exactly when to stop drinking caffeine. Not some generic 2 p.m. rule, but a specific time based on your sleep debt and your wake-up time so you don't wreck your deep sleep later.
That is useful. We all sort of guess at that cutoff time, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
However, there is a durability concern we need to mention. The tungsten cover they use, quite a few user reports mention that it scuffs pretty easily. Within 30 days, it can look quite beat up compared to the titanium on the Oura or RingConn.
Okay, so that's the landscape. You got the polished professional in Aura, the battery king in RingConn, the ecosystem player in Samsung, and the biohacker in Ultrahuman.
Right.
But buying the ring is just the first step. The hardware is just the collection mechanism. The real question is, once you have this stream of data coming in, what is it actually telling us, especially for those of us navigating life over 45?
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the data is revealing a phenomenon that explains a lot of the fatigue people in that demographic are feeling.
Before we decode that, and this concept really changed my perspective completely,
Right.
I just want to take a quick second for our listener. If you're finding this deep dive helpful, make sure you don't miss what is coming next. Consider subscribing so you never miss a new guide designed for life beyond 45. We're here to help you turn that data into real-world energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into the Midlife Energy Reset. You call this concept unfinished recovery. What does that mean?
It starts with a misconception we all have. We tend to think of our day in two modes, active and rest. Active is working, running errands, exercising. Rest is sitting on the couch.
Right. If I'm sitting on the couch watching a show for 3 hours, I'm resting. But then I wake up the next morning feeling like I got hit by a truck. It's that confusing frustration. I stopped moving, so why aren't I rested?
Because stopping is not resting. That is the core insight these rings are giving us. You might be physically motionless on that sofa, but if you look at the data, specifically heart rate variability, or HRV, your body's often still in a high-stress state.
Wait, explain that. I'm just watching a movie. Why is my body stressed?
Because your mind is processing high-stakes information. Maybe it's a tense drama, maybe it's the nightly news, maybe you're doom scrolling on your phone. Your brain is engaging with threats, with social cues, with complex plots, and your body responds by keeping your nervous system in a state of alert. You are, in effect, revving the engine in neutral.
Revving the engine in neutral.
Exactly. Your HRV stays low, which means your parasympathetic system, the rest and digest mode, isn't switching on. You aren't recovering. You are just unfinished. You're stuck in a holding pattern.
That makes so much sense. And I imagine our phones play a huge role in this too.
Huge. And this is specific to the aging nervous system. When we're 25, we can switch from alert to relax pretty quickly. It's like a toggle switch.
Yeah.
But the 45-plus nervous system is more like a high-performance car that takes longer to cool down. It has a longer cortisol hang time.
Cortisol hang time. So if I check an email at 9 p.m. just to clear the deck for tomorrow.
The Ring data shows this clearly. If you check a single email or a notification within 90 minutes of sleep, your body stays in standby mode. Your resting heart rate often stays elevated for the first half of the night.
Just from one check, that feels so disproportionate.
It's not the check itself. It's what the check represents. Your brain registers it as a task. It opens a loop. And your nervous system keeps the energy available to close that loop, even if you turn off the light. You aren't fully sleeping.
You're waiting.
You're waiting.
That is terrifying, honestly. But it explains why no screens in the bedroom isn't just, some archaic advice. It's biological necessity. Now, there's another drain we found in the research. You call it the invoice. And I feel like this one is going to hurt a little. We're talking about food and drink.
Yes, this is the one people resist the most. We often use a glass of wine or a late-night snack as a way to wind down. It feels relaxing in the moment.
It's the reward for a hard day.
Exactly, it's the ritual. But the smart ring data is brutal on this. It gives you an invoice the next morning. If you consume alcohol or a heavy meal late at night, your metabolism has to go to work. And metabolism generates heat.
And heat is the enemy of sleep.
It is the enemy of deep sleep. To get into those deep restorative stages, your core body temperature needs to drop by about 2 or 3 degrees. If your metabolism is churning away, processing that wine or that cheese, your core temp stays up. The ring shows this as a cratered HRV and a resting heart rate that stays high all night.
So the ring basically says, sure, have the wine, but here is the bill.
Exactly. It removes the mystery. It's not a moral judgment. It's just physics. You are paying for that relaxation with, say, 20% of your recovery tomorrow. When users see that data visualized, when they see the red line on the graph, it changes their decision-making. It becomes a math problem, not a willpower problem.
I like that perspective. It depersonalizes it. Okay, let's talk about the sleep itself. We hear a lot about deep sleep declining as we age. Is that just inevitable? Are we doomed to light sleep forever?
Well, to some extent, deep sleep does naturally decline after 45. But the ring reveals something else that is very fixable: sleep fragmentation.
What does that look like in the data?
It looks like a barcode. You might think you slept through the night, but the ring shows you woke up 15 times for 30 seconds each. You don't remember them because they were too short to form memories, but they absolutely pull you out of the restorative stages.
And what causes that?
Often it's environmental. As we age, our sleep becomes lighter. We become more sensitive to temperature and noise. The fix here is often incredibly simple: micro adjustments.
Like what?
An eye mask, dropping the room temperature by 2 degrees. Users who make these small tweaks often see their deep sleep numbers jump by 25 minutes a night.
25 minutes of deck sleep is massive. That's the difference between brain fog and feeling clear.
It's the difference between surviving the day and owning the day.
There is one last paradox I wanted to touch on before we wrap up: the sofa Sunday. I have definitely had days where I decided to do absolutely nothing to save energy, and yet I felt worse on Monday. Why does that happen?
We call this the paradox of active recovery. The Ring data often shows that on days of total sedentary behavior, stress scores are actually higher than on days with moderate activity.
That is completely counterintuitive. Doing nothing should be zero stress.
It should be, until you look at the biology. Your lymphatic system, your body's waste disposal system, it doesn't have a pump like the heart. It relies on muscle contraction to move fluid around.
Right?
So if you sit still for 12 hours, the whole system stagnates. You feel sluggish and heavy because you literally haven't flushed the metabolic waste.
So resting by doing nothing is actually stressful for the body because it creates a backup.
Precisely. Gentle movement, a walk, some stretching. Gardening acts as a biological vent. It signals safety to the nervous system, and it flushes out the waste. Total stagnation, on the other hand, often just leads to rumination and physical inflammation.
This has been such an eye-opener. It's not just about which gadget to buy, it's about rewriting the rules of rest for this stage of life.
That's the key. The gadget is just the mirror.
So let's recap for the listener who is ready to jump in, if they're looking at the hardware.
If you want the most polished data and insights, and you don't mind a subscription, the Oura Ring 4 is the gold standard. If you hate charging and you hate subscriptions, the RingConn Gen 2 is the clear winner. That 12-day battery is hard to beat. And if you are deep in the Samsung world, the Galaxy Ring is a no-brainer for the integration.
And on the Midlife Reset side,
the takeaway is that recovery isn't about stopping. It's about sending safety signals. Your body needs to know the day is over. Subtraction works better than addition here. Subtract the late screen time, subtract the late food, and remember that doing nothing isn't always resting.
Move a little to recover a lot.
Exactly.
I love that. Subtraction over addition. We usually think we need to do more to be healthy, but sometimes we just need to stop sending the wrong signals.
That's the whole game.
This has been fantastic. Leave us with one final thought. For the person listening who might be feeling a bit overwhelmed by all this data, what's the mindset shift?
I would say this: the Ring is a mirror, not a judge. The goal isn't to obsess over getting a sleep score of 100 every night. That just creates more anxiety, which of course ruins your sleep. The goal is to recognize that unfinished recovery accumulates over time. But the good news is, once you see the leak, you can plug it. You have the power to close that loop.
That's a great place to leave it. Thank you so much for breaking this all down with us.
Join us here at Silver Vitality Guide, because your best chapter deserves the right tools.
I'll see you in the next guide.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.